Welcome to today's episode of CLCI Live, brought to you by the award-winning and ICF-accredited school, Certified Life Coach Institute. Sit back, relax, and enjoy today's episode.
Jamming to our music.
Rocking out. Before we begin on this controversial topic, first I want to remind you, everybody watching, to like, subscribe, all of that good stuff, and to also join in the conversation. We want to hear from you. So we are monitoring our chats, and we'd love to hear from you. Also, I'm going to give us a big disclaimer here. This is a controversial coaching topic. Everything we're discussing here is it's an open discussion. It may not, I think a lot of what we're going to talk about may not fall a lot within the realms of coaching, but I think it is a discussion to be had around maybe a lot of misconceptions about coaches that are what they do and everything. So, and we're not here to negate anybody's beliefs or anything of that nature, but we're going to have a discussion about what is called the guru effect. So that is all for me. You guys want to take over for a bit from here?
Perhaps we should define what we mean when we say guru, right?
Right. Oh, I think that is an important first step, because there is like a more traditional tradition, and then there's, I think, a more Western culture, socially, widely accepted idea.
I think the idea of when I think of a guru is like pretty broad. It covers more areas than like maybe what people initially think. Like, I think the initial thought, the first thought when everybody thinks of a guru is a man sitting bow-legged with his hands like this, just sort of meditating. And then it sort of expands from there with other meanings. But that's like the first thought that pops in my head.
How about you guys?
I'm thinking about that question, and then I don't think of a guy. I think of a person, man or woman, who come from an enlightened and educated approach.
Jerome.
Yeah, Jen.
I think of it as just an expert, like somebody who is an expert in something and has wisdom that only they have based on their brain, their experience in their life, coupled with what they've been taught from their expert teachers. So I think of a guru as an expert, I think.
Yeah, I think of someone who is wholeheartedly dedicated to their craft, and it's a lifelong journey for themselves. Personally, I think of it in the more traditional sense. I think kind of what Anthony explained is what picture comes to mind, but the way that they treat life, I do think that they dedicate their lives to a specific thing, and that is what they indulge in for the entirety of their lives.
Yeah.
I think my conception of guru, like thinking about this now in terms of our topic today, it's a revered teacher, and expertise is optional.
Yeah.
Whereas there can be an expert who is wise and they have expertise in their field, but they don't teach anybody. They just sort of do whatever thing. A guru means that there's sort of an interpersonal relationship with like a student or somebody who is learning from them.
Yes,
I think expertise is, optional.
I think I think that we can define a guru in a lot of ways. I think the first thing that comes to mind a little bit is a little bit of suspicion, but for me. But then the second, also, it's anybody that is saying, "Come with me." Essentially, the way I have some kind of knowledge to bestow upon you that others may not have, and that's really sort of what I kind of think of when I fall into the guru space. I do think there's an element of, especially when we're speaking to guru, I think the way that market is sort of cornered in this is that they tend to deal in spaces that there isn't a lot of concrete evidence in, or a lot of like hardcore, scientific knowledge or something along that. Like there isn't a definite process. And so when you're in a space of sort of where there isn't a definite A plus B equals C situation, I feel like gurus start to rise out of those situations with what they may call a way or the way to do things. And that can be applied in a lot of different situations. So,
and sort of the general basis that I think gurus tend to like fall in is the religious or spiritual, the economic, the political, and the self-help, because there's not a lot of A plus B equals C like sort of pathways in those areas. So like I think of people like Jim Cramer for like stock market advice. Who's the guy who said that the water's turning the frogs gay?
What?
what?
Look, you know who I'm talking about? Like he
Okay,
talks
look
like
it up.
this.
I'm gonna look it up.
It's Alex Jones. Alex Jones. Or Donald Trump, and I'm talking about Donald Trump even before his presidency with like I found that book about like success or the game or something like that. Art of the Deal.
Yeah.
Art of the Deal. Religious or self-help. It's people who have something to sell with their mentoring. And I have secret knowledge, and I'm here to share it for money.
Yeah, well, essentially, it's I have figured something out. I have achieved something that you want to achieve, and now I will bestow my knowledge upon you.
Not only
Like an expert to me.
Yeah, it's not only that person taking that guru seat. We had to, whoever that guru is, empower them in some way to even get there, right?
Well, this is where I think when we start to talk about the guru effect is where that effect starts to come in, because there's some paradoxes that happen, some odd things that are counterintuitive when we start to really dive into gurus and what this is. And I think if we speak in, let's leave like the more crazy topics to the side, but if we speak in the realm of like coaching gurus, self-help gurus, those exist. Those people are real. We are probably come across their stuff more often than the average human being because of what we do. And there are a lot of they may not call themselves gurus, but so-called experts that are in this self-help world that are bestowing their process, their way on others. And I'm not going to discourage any of our students from, going out and coming up with their own process, their own way, and sharing that with people. But I think that when we start to talk about the effect here, what I think starts to happen is when people start to just implicitly trust or blindly follow, right? Without and sort of it turns into a reverence. They can do no wrong. They are right about everything. There is no other way. And I think that's really where we start to get in danger zones. I would never want to follow a guru that didn't encourage me going out and getting my own way, my own knowledge, figuring things out on my own, exploring other things. But what's weird is a lot of people really tout because they're benefiting that their way is the one, the only, the best, the sole way.
Okay, just to move it aside for a second from what we're talking about, then that's what we say when you got a niche, you got to market your niche and all of that. Just be an expert in what you're doing. And in this, where we're talking about, is a little bit different.
Yes. Yeah, I think it is definitely a little bit different. There's a difference between being an expert and it gets icky. The guru effect gets icky. And I'm not going to say it's 100% the guru's fault, but why do you think it is that do any of you have, why, I know why my hackles go up a little bit when I start to hear about a guru. Do you guys have that reaction ever? I'll get excited sometimes too, but then I have to like check. Come in.
I used to until I realized that gurus are all human. None of them are perfect.
What about
none of them
what
are
about the
flawless.
gurus who claim they're not human and they're perfect?
Well,
I'm sure those
that-
exist, but I'm not believing it.
That's not believable for me,
Okay.
so it doesn't work.
Yeah. I think though too, it's a weird thing, but what I find interesting is somebody who is attracted to wanting to be that level of leader, that level of center of attention, that level of my way is the one and only way. I immediately have red flags go up. Like, right? Because I'm thinking a narcissist. Like, I'm going, like, what's a, you know what I mean? Mind you, like, there's a weird fine line between having expertise and being an individual that's open and willing to learn, and then being someone that is saying my way is the one and only path. And I think that's what happens a lot of times in these spaces, right?
Mm-hmm.
How do we draw that line? How do we know?
Well, it's knowing the difference between expertise and just, I don't know, having good advice or wisdom, which, okay, like, guru goes with wisdom in my mind. I think a lot of people assume gurus are wise. I don't know if the people who are falling for gurus even really know what wisdom is, though.
I was just going to
As
ask, what is wisdom?
Something to search for. Well, I'm not claiming that I know what wisdom is, but I'm also, what I'm saying is what people are searching for in a guru is somebody who's wise and knowledgeable and maybe is in possession of knowledge that's not available to the public, but the person who's searching for a guru doesn't even know what it is they're searching for to begin with, which is the reason why they're searching for a guru to enlighten them, which leads to the contradiction, like, I don't even know what it is I don't know, so therefore I will pay somebody to, or
Tell me what I
spend
need.
my money or time to tell me what I need to do to get to that level.
This word, the words external validation are something that really comes forward for me. It's like a lot. What do you guys think when I say that?
Well, I was just going to. Tug of war here. We all got so much.
Everybody's excited about this.
Go ahead, Jerome.
Okay, my internet just kind of blipped for a second. Hopefully I'm good. I think, yeah, external validation definitely comes to mind for me. I think when it comes to those that are following gurus, they just, I think for the most part, maybe they don't know necessarily exactly specifically what they're looking for, Anthony, when it comes to maybe a skill or ideals, but I do think they want to be a part of something. I think they know that, and I think that's where it can be so dangerous.
Yeah, and just to add to everything what everyone's saying, just kind of in the same vein, a lot of that research that we did, it said that people were searching to find trust. They were searching to find a place where it seemed like what they said is they could just release their energy around not belonging, which is the same thing that y'all are saying. It's about wanting to belong, wanting to learn, and feeling safe in an environment. They give up part of themselves in unhealthy guru
Yeah.
connections.
But what about the coaches right now that are just following other coaches and looking to them as a guru for coaches? They're not giving anything up other than maybe a lot of their own internal wisdom because they're outsourcing what's right to the guru. What do you think about that?
Well, I think they're also giving money,
Typically.
which is
But if they're just consuming their free content,
Yeah.
they're not.
I mean, in that case, they're not serving the purpose of the guru, which, like, if you think of this marketing terms, like somebody who's not who's on that outside of the funnel, the marketing funnel, and they're not, what do we call that, Brooke, when somebody makes, like, they convert to a sale?
A lead, they're not conversion.
I guess, yeah, that's it. They're not if they're not a conversion, they're pretty much a blip on the guru's radar. You're still on that outside of the marketing funnel. It's the people who do eventually, buy the courses, go to the seminars, go to the group events. Those are who the people the gurus are looking for. You're essentially a non-factor when you're still on that outside of the funnel.
But I think that, we can ascribe that to any business. Any business is trying to be self-sustainable in that place, but they're not out to, like that one article we read, to do harm to others or to put themselves in center stage and be an awful human being. What you described, Jen, is someone who conducting business and has great content that you're interested in. It's different that if you were to give up who you were to only follow them and only really replicate yourself after them, I think is where that fine line difference is, or you would only do what they told you to do.
Mm-hmm.
I think a big part of it is practicing what you preach too. I think that a lot of folks out there in the guru space are not necessarily practicing what they preach, right? Like they are going to give you the way. This is how you do it, blah, blah, blah. But the truth of the matter, they are often despicable human beings. They are often not following their own business practice. They're often not giving you the whole picture because they want to upsell you to the next thing, because they want to write. So they're not as transparent as we would like for them to be. And I think that that's where it starts to get icky. That being said, Jen, your point, your question that you asked, I think that as coaches and as people, we are consuming. That's what we do. We want to learn. It's research. It's knowledge. You're getting out there. You're going to see what other people are doing. See what resonates with us. See what we want to leave behind. I think where the big icky sticking point comes is when we get sucked into a space that doesn't allow for anything else, right? That it doesn't, it's like it sucks you in such a way that it has to be the everything, the only way. And I think that's where my hackles start to rise, because it's one thing to be doing research and seeing and looking and grabbing pieces and elements and embracing the parts that make sense for you and leaving other things behind. But what I think happens in a lot of these other spaces is they don't allow for the presence of an outside influence. And it becomes a space where I want all of your attention. I want all of your money. I want all of your whatever it may be. And it doesn't leave room for other things. And it's not as much a collaborative space, I don't think either. I don't think there's a lot of collaboration going on in the guru setting. I think a lot of times it's a single individual that is dictating more than it is a collaborative kind of process.
And just to reiterate that we're not saying all people who are gurus are bad, right? There's definitely great spiritual teachers out there that are definitely an amazing space to be a spiritual teacher. There's also, just like there's bad seeds in all aspects of different jobs and works, there's also participants who don't do things the way we expect them to behave as well, and they go off.
Well, and that's where this paradox starts to happen, in this thing where it's kind of a self-fulfilling prophecy that a guru ends up being kind of crooked, though, in some ways, because what happened, you start with and maybe not even with the intention, but you start with an idea, you start with a thing, right? And you want to tell people about it. Well, how do I tell people about it? I got to promote it. Okay, well, I got to promote it. To promote it, I got to make money. Okay, so now then it becomes a product. And then now what happens is we're selling spirituality. We're selling things that perhaps shouldn't be a product, or maybe I'm not gonna say should or shouldn't, but it gets to a space where it becomes a business, right? And so it becomes a space where I go from this person who is starting by just wanting to share, and I end up creating a business out of it. And that change is gonna, regardless of who you are, you're gonna change the way you are looking at that initial idea, because it's not an initial idea that a lot of times is born, I think, out of I want to make money, I would hope. It is sometimes, but it is in a perfect world an idea that is born out of some level of benevolence or altruism, but once you start to get into the grind of capitalism, it sort of starts to taint itself a little more and more each step of the way. And then you have people who are looking up to you and they believe every word that comes out of your mouth. And that's a lot of power for any individual to have. And we're human, like Jen said. So I think
but that's our responsibility, right? Is to not believe every word that comes out of someone's mouth, no matter how high they present themselves to be.
That's you think about that's you being a responsible human being that takes responsibility for your own actions. There's a lot of folks out there though that haven't gotten to that point, or are gullible for a little bit. Don't have that level of like, oh my goodness, red alert going off. They're more willing to accept and believe and do so blindly or quickly. And that's again where it gets a little sticky.
Mhm.
Anthony, I see you thinking.
Yeah, I was just thinking about like, what is it about life? I mean, this goes into my biases about life coaching that you were aware of prior to me even joining this company. But what is it about life coaching that
This company. Listen to the way he said that.
this company? What is it about life coaching as a subject? Why are we even discussing gurus at all? What is it about life coaching that attracts these kinds of people? Either the self-proclaimed gurus or the people who are searching for gurus, as opposed to maybe some other industry. Like, I don't think there's a lot of people in like the
rubber making guru,
or the plumbing guru,
the asphalt guru.
I'm sure there's this on TikTok. I bet there's a plumbing
There
guru.
probably
But there are.
But like,
Really are.
it's cutesy.
Yeah, but the thing is, I think they have to. The difference. One of the differences being like they have concrete, measurable result.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And why it gets sticky in these spaces is it's really hard to measure the results.
Mhm.
It's really hard to validate the promises, the guarantees. It's really hard, and this is why life coaching becomes hard to sell sometimes, right? Because when we're talking about plumbing, I know when my drain is cleared out that oh, you have come through and filled your job. When I'm talking about life coaching, it's hard to sometimes really explain those concrete results because those concrete results can vary person to person, and it's not, we're going to clean your life coaching drains. That's isn't working.
Well, and it can be so incremental that they don't even recognize that when they came in, they were at this spot. Now that they've been through coaching, they're at that spot. And it could be such a slow process of working on their self-change that they may not even recognize the difference.
I think what draws people to this, though, sorry, Anthony, I was answering your question.
No.
I think part of the reason what draws people to this is when we're talking about self-help, right? We're talking about, and what is a guru? Like they're looking for enlightenment. They're looking for, a way to be happy. They're looking for the solution to living a fulfilled life, or all of these things. Say guru and all of these things are what life coaches also to speak into. So here I am, a person that wants to help people, and I feel like I've figured it out and I feel validated by my advice. I don't know what coaching is, but that sounds like the space I want to be. And that's what's going to grab people and pull them in. This is why we break people a lot of times in our classes.
Yeah.
Their jaws hit the floor, and they're like, because we explained
What
to
do
them.
you mean it's not about me?
It's
It
not
is about me.
Giving advice, and it's not about your advice. I mean, that can come into play and be helpful in marketing, but in the coaching space, it's not what we do.
Mm-hmm. And anyone can call themselves a coach. So, of course, that's going to be an attractive industry for a guru.
Well, it's a huge industry. It's unregulated. There's so many perks.
And those those people who have names out there, they have transitioned into using that terminology as coach. I've gone to several programs. Someone that I used to learn from, and they changed it into a coaching program, and it was nothing to do with coaching. It had everything to do with therapy.
But I think of looking at when I'm looking at, we did positive intelligence, but there are all these self-help space, and I think the tools are valuable. I think there is a reason we as coaches, we as a coaching school teach, right? We're not just teaching how to ask questions. We're teaching more in-depth things. We're teaching about the human experience. We're teaching about all of these things that happen in people, and also how to better ourselves so that we can be better coaches. And I think that comes into play in our education and in what we do and how we teach people to be coaches. And so I don't discount that self-helpiness, right? There's value there, but there's a ton of it. Nobody has one way, right?
Well, it is. I mean, it's just rehashed over and over and over in different terminology, words used, ways of saying things, ways of applying it, but it is rehashed. It's all old.
Why are you waving that pair of scissors in my face for?
It was on my desk and my hands were waving.
It's a wand.
As we're talking about this, I pulled something up, and I think this might be a good illustration. How do I share my screen?
The bottom, there's like a little screen with an arrow.
There we go. I'm making sure nothing.
Yeah. You
nothing
share the right
crazy's in my.
screen. Share the right screen.
Yes, I know. Are we able to see my screen?
I'm gonna turn it on right now.
Okay, so I think if I'm going with that, gurus are essentially teachers. This is Maslow's hierarchy.
It's Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Yeah.
I'm just using this as sort of an explanation. I could critique this whole thing, but we're not going to get into that. At the bottom, towards the bottom, you have way more teachers than you have gurus. But as you go up the ladder towards the top, it's an inverse proportional, like an inverse relationship between teachers and gurus. You get less teachers of like process or how to do things, and you get more gurus who are maybe saying they can tell you these things that might not be the case. So like at the bottom, physiological needs, who are the first people that teach you how to,
Your
dream
parents,
and shit?
that.
Your parents. It's pretty clear cut. You don't think of your parents as a guru unless they're trying to give you advice on maybe
Hey, your parents are your baby little self gurus.
Yeah, but they teach you how to do these things, and there's very clear cut ways on how you should drink a glass of water, maybe how you shouldn't drink a glass of water by like inhaling it,
and at what temperature,
at what temperature, things like that. And then safety needs, it's kind of the same thing. Maybe employment, you get employment gurus, but you learn pretty much from a teacher. Here are the skills you need to get an education so you can get a job in the future. But then as you go up and up, things get less process-based, and that's when gurus start to trickle in.
Well, and what's interesting too is when we speak into, we should do a thing on Maslow's hierarchy of needs at some point, but like when we speak into it, at the basic level, at physiological level, if our needs aren't being met on a physiological level, everything above it suffers, and that's how it works, right? So we have to come back to feeding and fixing the physiological things before we can even worry. So when our health is not working, when all of the other stuff runs out the door, sort of goes out the door, because we have to focus, and that's why it's all
actually that's from what I've seen, Brooke. I don't think that's true.
Really?
And there was one clip that I saw that made me think that this wasn't true. It was Tony Robbins on like Dr. Oz. And these people were talking about how she felt anxiety and stress. There was another woman he was going like four different women up on stage. One woman's like employment, she was worrying about her employment. Another person was worrying about their health. And the way that he was talking to them, like as the solutions to this, it seemed like he was focusing on the self-actualization esteem, that fixing these things at the top was a way to,
To feed
mitigate
herself.
and to work on the physiological and safety needs. And that's what I see a lot of gurus are trying to maybe tell their people, that the essentially to
You can
inverse
say
this
that.
triangle.
You can say that, but if I'm naked, homeless, and starving, you can talk to me all day about self-actualization, but my most necessary needs are probably to find clothes, food,
Okay,
and
but what about the most extreme cases of the guru effect, like
oh yeah,
the Jonestown massacre, where people put their safety and physiological needs at risk
oh they do, yeah,
for
for the sake of that. Well, and that's
for
why
that.
it gets scary. That's when we start to get scary, because also a lot of these people end up running people, taking money from people beyond what they're able to give. Right, they end up pushing people and jeopardizing the safety and lives of their followers for the sake of whatever it is they're preaching, and that's when it gets really icky, right?
So
That's when it gets, because if they were a good guru, they would make sure that the people following them had food, had shelter, had water, and were safe above all things. But a lot of them don't care and will take their money far beyond what they're capable of giving, and that's when it gets real sticky.
yeah, I wanted to add to, like, there's an imaginary column from teacher to guru at the top, but on the outside of that is the life coach, which has nothing to do with teaching at all.
Mhm. Yep.
Even though we work in these sort of love and belonging, esteem, and self-actualization areas a lot of the time with our clients, we're not teaching them anything. We don't have secret knowledge that we're bestowing.
And I'll dare say, we as coaches might work in all five
Oh,
sections.
hold on. Jen's.
Hold on. We're not teaching them anything, you say.
No.
But Lisa, don't we have teachable moments that happen?
We have teachable moments, but not to teach them this, to have them have an opportunity to think of other possibilities. I think that's what it is. It's not to teach them my way is the highway. It's to teach them that their way has lots of other possibilities and opportunities to work within.
I think that we also, it would be remiss not to say that our clients aren't learning a lot throughout the process too. We just aren't there with hard and fast,
Here's what you should do.
This is my book. All of your answers are in here. You can book a session with me. I'll tell you what chapter to reference, and that's not what we're doing, right? That's not how this works.
Yeah, like I've thought.
You might create a book. We might create some affirminators, but those are marketing tools. Those are ways for us to get our name out there. Those are ways for us to show a process, right?
Yeah.
There was a piece of research, Lisa, I think that you posted on, I think it was Forbes, how to be a guru. One of them was.
Oh man, that was Forbes. It made me giggle.
One was like make your own Bible, essentially.
Yeah,
That's what it was.
Yeah. Mind you, I have said as much to clients when I was in marketing. I have said, create a process. You have to believe in your process. Your process has to be true, and you have to believe it and believe it works to the nth degree, and believe it so much so that you can convince other people it works. And if you create a process that is your own and it works, you've just created a product, right? You can sell it. That's what we talk about. What you said, positive, or what was it? PQ school, right? We did PQ school, which is positive, essentially positive emotional intelligence stuff redressed. But he created a product, how to do it. You took it through the steps. He wasn't coaching, though. He wasn't coaching at all.
Mm-mm.
He was selling a process. He's selling a process. That's not what. So it's this weird, and this is where I wanted to sort of step into this space for a moment. We as coaches do create tools. I think that it's a fantastic marketing thing for us to do. We write blogs. We share tips. We put ourselves in an expert space in order to gain the trust of the people following us. We help our clients out before they ever sit and coach with us So how do we communicate to the client that we're not a guru?
That's a good
I
question.
don't.
Yeah.
I don't know if the client goes in assuming that coaches are gurus, but I'll say it is probably tempting for a coach to want to market themselves as a guru because that's what they see in other people's marketings all the time, and they might be tempted to go that guru route where. And we talked about this last time about lying essentially in your marketing, like just don't over deliver. Or don't overpromise on something you can't yourself deliver.
Truth.
But in defense of the coach who has a following, that word right there, the following, is something to pay attention to because you'll get others coming in and expecting that return. How would you describe, that was a good question, how would you describe that I'm, not to use Tony Robbins, I'm not your
I'm not your what?
Oh, he has his, which I liked, actually. I like that one. I'm not your guru.
Yeah.
How do you inform others? I think you just be authentic and true. I think stick with what Brooke has been saying. You are who you are. You have a marketable story, whatever that is, whether it's tools, story, words, and honor your authenticity. In some respects, it's not your responsibility on how others see you, but it is also a responsibility for you to take to recognize if others are seeing you that way and really think about boundaries and what that boundary could look like with them.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Yeah.
It's one of the reasons that I've closed my marketing business. You know how stressful it was to have other people trust you with their business and like you feel like it's up to you. It's on me. It falls on me. I have to prove. That's a lot of responsibility, right? Oh my goodness. I'll just stick with CLCI. One is enough. Thank you. And so. Keep that in mind, right? The more you put yourself up on a pedestal, the more responsibility you are assuming for the lives of others, and that's why it gets scary. And you know, our wonderful Sam Gozo is resonating in my head because there's something that he really drives home in his classes and drives home when we talk, and that is discussing what coaching is and what coaching isn't.
Yeah.
So like when you're selling your coaching, just being very clear about what it is and what it isn't, and making sure everybody's on the same page
Mm-hmm.
when you start that process, right? Before you accept that money, before you take anything from anybody, you say, hey, this is what this is going to be. This is what it's not going to be. And just be really clear and have that talk, and don't be afraid. And if you're not being clear, that's when it gets to, are you being deceptive, right? And so the other thing that I think is also interesting in this is when we talk about group coaching is a little more of a space where I feel like there can be a little bit, we are allowed to give a little more as coaches, right? We have more teachable moments in a group coaching space. And so that's an interesting space where I think we can fall in that that guru space a little. We have a little more ability to fall over into that guru space. The same with motivational speaking, all things that coaches do, right? Or giving talks. We start to sort of dip our toe in guru water. But I think that the big difference is making sure that we're being, like Lisa said, authentic and not making promises we can't return on, and making sure that our health, well-being, and safety is important, but that we're also not taking advantage of other people for our own benefit.
I mean, I think that's a fine line you know, when you're conducting business and you're conducting business in a self-help industry, you know, it's really important that you stay humble in that space and always recognize that you're the learner as much as you are sharing. I think that's an important piece. I don't know, I'm getting emotional, but I got emotional here. I think recognizing that we all have something to learn is the space to operate from, and not that I have all the answers.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's coach, right? That's coach.
Staying curious.
Yeah.
What can you think of a humble guru?
There's got to be some. Hold
Yeah,
on.
I'm
Hold on.
sure there are.
I feel like Brene Brown strikes me as a humble guru.
She is, and she's gotten a little political here and there. You
I can
know,
tell you,
Eckhart Tolle, I like him. Tolle, some people say
it does
Tolle.
come off as pretty humble to me.
He's pretty humble.
And
I like
leaving
the Dalai Lama as well. I think he's, for the most part.
I know how much he charges for his speaker roles.
Dalai
so
Lama's in a little bit of hot water at the
Some
moment.
controversy.
a little bit of.
I haven't watched it. I don't know. I haven't watched it lately, so bear with me.
Yeah, no, that one hit me hard.
I like, I think Mel Robbins seems like a humble guru. I mean, you guys are one of you is going to have a problem with this, but I think Gary Vaynerchuk seems like somewhat of a humble guru sometimes. Anthony, why do I feel like you would disagree with that?
I don't think anybody like
I'm gonna go with Russell Brand.
a humble guru is probably no.
Even
not.
Russell Brand has a big ego, I think.
Are you insane, Brooke? Not
No,
Russell
yeah.
Brand. That's the exact opposite.
I'm crazy.
I think he's got a big ego, but I think he has a lot of profound
But
things.
that's the thing, you have to have
No.
a big ego to put yourself center stage. And that's
Absolutely.
where this paradox comes in, right?
Yeah,
Can you actually be, to make yourself
I
center
don't think you
stage
can.
in anything, is it possible to be humble? Like that's a hard thing to do, right? I think you have to be you have to be capable of putting yourself out there and being like, nah, I am the shit.
Maybe
In
when,
order for somebody to believe that you are and actually buy, if everybody's like,
or you can produce something that people enjoy. So I'm thinking maybe along the lines of artists. They're not necessarily facilitating a group where, you know, maybe they are providing for you to view, but they're either you like it or you don't. And they can attract a lot of fans, quote unquote followers, and maybe even inspire some people to do certain things that they're doing without having much of an ego at all.
Also, how much somebody charges, I don't think it matters. It tells me that they're not humble. I think it just says that I need X amount of money for you to have my time.
I mean, don't we say charge what you're worth?
Yes.
Yeah.
So if I think I'm worth a whole lot of money, that seems to be the
Well,
opposite
that's
of
not
humble.
a fair assessment though. For the only reason that people charge, like, you know what I mean, like, and that's a weird. I think you can be humble and not have all the answers and still be capable of asking for enough money. Because if you have to think of it this way, Eckhart Tolle has a team. Eckhart Tolle is not just Eckhart Tolle. He has a whole he has created an entire business, and that entire business has to support and sustain and be able to grow. And that's what's weird is, right? That's why we all get the icky face and all these things, and our skin starts to crawl. And because why? Because all of these great gurus have to be really good at business, or have to be able to pay a team to be really good at business for them. And so the moment you do that, it turns into a machine. It turns into a business. It's not this altruistic, but that's not life. So
Eckhart
it's
Tolle,
weird.
by the way, has a net worth of $70 million. So just
Wow, I did not know that.
we're asking about inquiring what's humility. I don't know if that counts.
Well, but I mean, is he donating any of that? What's he doing with that money?
Right.
I
Who
don't
knows
know.
what he's doing?
I can't tell you.
He might be giving it all away, Anthony. We don't know.
I don't know if that counts as net worth then if you don't have the money.
I mean, it's just a weird. That's why it always gets difficult in these spaces, right? And we want to say in a perfect world, but when we're looking in this big guru's face, it doesn't happen. So then we can take it smaller. Think about community gurus. Do we have community gurus? Are there small people that are just doing good and being a guide, helping people and not asking for much in return. And I think those are the people that get you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's
Mhm.
Make a change.
superhero of our carrying our world to a better place at one location at a time,
One person at a time.
one person at a time. Yeah.
So I have an off-topic question.
No, just kidding.
Dude.
No, but you said we say charge what you're worth. What do we say to coaches who don't feel that they are worth what we recommend that they charge?
Get a coach.
What-
No, just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the biggest piece because, I can tell you I've done a lot of learning, a lot of growing, a lot of changing, and I've been working on myself since I was 20. Does working on myself count as being able to help others? Maybe, maybe not. But there's also a lot of life I've lived from then to now, experiences that I've had, that connection that I've always had with others to be able to share with them and help them grow. While definitely different today, it's always been my nature. It's your nature. And if you have to conduct business, how will you do that to sustain and keep going where you are raising up and helping others find their voice?
Well, and there's also a whole other philosophy of thought where if we are good and altruistic people who don't have the means to pay for coaching also deserve what we have to offer.
Sure,
And that's where
sure.
the spaces of
Absolutely, they deserve
charitable
it,
and by bringing up group coaching and finding ways to do it in a way
Sure.
that delivers, but
Yeah.
you can still sustain your own.
We don't live in utopia. We don't live in utopia. So that's where you want to give back to society. You have a paying culture and you have a giving culture.
So I don't think that if a coach doesn't feel that they're worth whatever the recommended amount is, that they should feel bad about that. I think that's just their starting point.
That's
Right,
a
that's
psychology.
Where they're at.
Yeah, that's a psychology, I'm not worthy self-esteem concept that, again, like Brooke said, get a coach. For sure, get a coach.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And having a coach yourself, or if it is actually psychology, then get a therapist, depending on what your needs are and how you want to have that conversation. But it becomes a very important piece of how you coach others. It's a great learning experience that you can go through and add to your toolbox as well.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
I'm gonna add a counter example now.
Okay, go for it.
If you're running a business, you're only worth what people will buy for. That's pretty much it. So if that is the case, that you're not getting clients at the recommended, cost of a session, whatever, then there might be a few things in order. It might not be that you aren't worth that much. That might not be the case, but you need to actually evaluate, is what you're offering worth the prices that you are selling it at? And if that's actually the barrier that's preventing people from buying your services, because I think a lot of people who say, I'm not worth so-and-so price, so I'm not going to list myself that price, I don't know if they've actually done, like, they put their boots on the ground and figured out if that is the reason that's preventing people from buying. Because if it is, and if you're getting a lot of people who are wanting to coach with you, and then when they're about to convert, they say, oh, I can't because, it's a little too expensive.
Mm-hmm.
Then yeah, you might be on the money by saying, I'm not worth that much, or the service I offer isn't worth that much, it's worth a lower amount. That's completely different. And then from maybe the psychological reasons, or you're not confident in your abilities, but also you could just ask yourself the question, or if you have a coach, the coach could ask this question too. So what do you need to do to be worth that much? And then sort of going down that route of coaching, okay, what are the actionable things that will give you that value? And then maybe going down that route, because your services might not be worth it. that just might be a fact.
It might be the target audience
Yeah,
you're going towards as well,
that's also the case.
and how your marketing materials speak to the target that you're wanting and that's not reaching them. And so there's a lot of work to do, legwork in this, which is answering a different question than what Jen asked. What you're talking about, Anthony, is really creating that business, and how do we discern what our target can afford. That's different. That's marketing. What Jen was talking about is much more into self-esteem conversation, because in that space, the marketing will come, but not yet.
Yeah.
Because of that self-esteem conversation, I don't feel worthy of making X. That's a different topic.
Yeah.
But with knowledge, with research, with what you spoke about, Anthony, it can come to where I understand what I could earn if I'm not feeling good enough. With that research of doing what Anthony was talking about, that could help move that pendulum. At least I know what I could get. But the work is still going to be that I am worth collecting. I've got a life to live just like everybody else does. This happens to be my business. And therefore, I have to feel confident in myself. If you're not feeling confident with yourself, another step of the work.
Which a guru can probably help with.
Yeah.
We're about that time. So what are your guys' closing thoughts?
I feel like I want to know your gurus, or at least a guru that you've kind of, like looked up to, held in high regard. Like, I'm just curious about
That's a
that.
good question.
Yeah. So, one of my, if you will, gurus that I've come up in this space of coaching is Judith Glasser, and she's passed away. Sadly, she was amazing.
I don't think I have any gurus. There are people who I could maybe classify as a revered teacher, maybe. But guru, in my mind, like, a guru asks something of their disciple or the person that they're being taught. And I don't think I've ever encountered a guru in my life that dynamic has happened where a great deal of time or a great deal of respect and money, probably as well, has been given to a single person to unlock knowledge. So I don't know if I have a good answer for that question.
Well, how about an expert? Name one expert.
Favorite teacher. Favorite teacher, because that's who I think my guru is a favorite teacher.
You guys are just trying to make me sound like a dickhead on the live, aren't you? You're just trying to make me look like I'm not humble. That's it now.
Oh my God.
I don't think I have.
Okay.
No. I'll say this. A respected teacher was probably my music teacher in high school, who knew a lot. But there's an expertise in the music field that, like, I felt like I trusted. He knew what he was talking about.
Yeah.
There wasn't really self-actualization or esteem things going on. It's just I could trust him to lead and direct a band, and I could go to him with music questions.
Yeah.
But he's probably the closest. Shout out to Mr. Pressler.
So I didn't have one until I was in my 40s. So there you have it. So you're
There you go. I could get a guru later in my life.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
could.
Jerome.
Yeah, that's a tough question for me too. I might just cheat, and I do. There's somebody that I looked up to the last year of college for me. Is one of my professors who he was a part of all of my major classes, so I had to take him for a year and a quarter. It was actually over summer school, and then also for the last year. So I got to know him.
What professor? We went to the same college, everyone.
Oh, you did?
Or was it a community college, or was it San Bernardino?
This was at San Bernardino. Yeah.
Was it?
and he's slipping my mind. He's slipping my mind.
How is he a guru? You can't even remember his name.
Oh, man.
Because I enjoyed his class to an
Okay.
extent where I'd never enjoyed a class before. He was somebody who, I mean, we did get to know each other a lot in class. We didn't have a huge interpersonal relationship, but we did. And during class, I loved answering his questions. He loved, fielding any answers that I had for him when he answered or asked any questions. So he was probably the closest to somebody that outside of my parents. I mean, I really genuinely, they probably are somewhat of gurus to me. My mom, especially, she's someone who I look to when it comes to learning how to love. She loves and loves well. So that's one for me.
So I think the best gurus are probably people who do not present themselves as gurus
Mm-hmm.
initially.
Yeah.
So yeah,
It's like the song you don't know you're beautiful and that's what makes you beautiful.
Yes.
You don't know you're guruful.
Way
and
to
that what
quote
makes you
One
beautiful.
Direction. Anthony.
Guruful.
Beautiful. All right, that will end
Did
today's
you guys
live.
know there was a URL that has .guru?
Yeah, if everybody wants a .guru URL, those are available.
Yeah.
So,
Anyway,
FYI.
just piece. Okay, Jen, go for it.
Wait, you want to know my gurus?
Oh yeah, we'll do yours.
My gurus are Dan, Lisa, and Brooke.
Oh, we're so sorry. We are so
And-
sorry.
But I am learning, you guys are humans, and I'm going to take you down off the pedestals just a little bit.
And
Oh, he's looking for
Jen.
the Anthony and Jerome.
Oh, of course, and Anthony and Jerome, of
there you
course.
go.
Oh my God, how would I have survived in the CLCI office without you guys?
Okay. So if you, the listeners, want my advice and to join me in my seminars, it's $1,000 a session as your guru. And that will end today's live. This was Controversial Coaching, the Guru Effect. Next month, we'll be talking about Leadership Coaching 101, diving into a new topic. So be sure to like, subscribe, share, comment. all
Join
that
our
stuff.
classes.
Join our classes where you're not taught by a guru, you're taught by an experts in life coaching who will help guide you towards a certification. All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Hey everyone, thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Once again, this is brought to you by Certified Life Coach Institute. We're an ICF accredited school who certifies our life coaches in 3-day online intensive courses. In addition to other podcast episodes, feel free to check us out every Tuesday at 4:00 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on YouTube or Facebook for our CLCI Lives, where we get together and discuss various topics that are centered around sharpening your skills so you can become a better certified life coach. For more information, feel free to visit us at CertifiedLifeCoachInstitute.com. Until next time, be well.